Next up, we have Reese and Isaac Rezey with the Pro Panel. All right, guys, this advances back. It's all you. Hello, I'm Austin Reese.
And I'm Isaac Rezey, and today we are presenting to you the photocatalytic regenerating organic panel, or the Pro Panel for short. So imagine you walk into a car dealership and you go to buy a car, but they will only sell you the car for 10 times the market value. That would make trying to buy the car completely economically inviable. What if imagine how significantly that would impact your ability to interact in a society that is so dependent on having a vehicle to be able to basically just function in that society. Now imagine how ubiquitous solar panels would be if we were to take the opposite approach and reduce the cost of them by a tenth. Imagine to a tenth. Imagine just how much more common they would become. So where is solar power today? Currently, it's pretty accessible. The majority of people are able to, in some way or capacity, have solar, because you can have solar wherever the sun shines. However, there is a significant financial barrier to it. The return on investment time for solar panels as it currently stands is 8 to 10 years for the majority of them, and most people don't have the time or fiscal capacity to place that investment in. But it is still the future of energy.
So, how do we know solar panels are the future of energy? All we have to do is look towards our past. So, as we can see, in previous decades, the price of solar panels has gone down exponentially. However, in these past couple of years, we see an asymptote developing at the price reduction here. With this, we also see an increase in solar usage and installation with the decreasing price. Now with this tells us people, they want to use solar energy, however, only if it's at the right price. With the decrease of solar panels and this asymptote developing, it's clear they're eventually going to hit a point where they're not going to get cheaper anymore, and that's where the Pro Panel comes into play. So what is our market? Our market is the US solar economy, which currently is at $6 billion. That's a huge market, and it's divided into residential, non-residential, and utility. Now, if we could get just a fraction of this market under our product, we would then be able to expand to the global market, which currently is totaling at $66 billion, with the US making up just a fraction of that.
So what is our solar solution? So the Pro Panel is functionally it's just a housing unit for algae. Algae grows in it, and in a sulfur deprived environment is able to release hydrogen gas as part of its normal metabolic cycle. So using essentially just algae to handle all of the expensive parts of solar energy, we're able to produce hydrogen gas, which then can be used for either cooking, heating, or directly generating electricity. This enables a market that isn't just reliant on electricity, but also opens up it also opens up a market for solar power as a fuel source.
So what have we done so far to make this a reality? As you saw in that previous slide, we've developed a commercial model, and further, we have minimized this commercial model to a prototype. I'd like you to take a look at here. So looking at the prototype, you can see baffles and a fan, which will essentially allow our algae to live in the proper environment. We've also done material testing on membranes regarding oxygen diffusivity through them to ensure that our commercial model will be viable and work correctly. There's a reason why this isn't being done so far. There's a lot of hurdles to overcome, and we're working on overcoming those hurdles. Finally, the last thing that we've done is produce a microcomputer with all of the sensors necessary to perform our experiments, and also ultimately this will be implemented into our commercial model as a controller. So how much does this thing cost? When it comes to sustainability, it's all about the cost, right? Or else it's just not going to happen. So currently, looking at the price breakdown, our price is at 47 cents per watt compared to the typical module price bought by a consumer of $1.4 per watt. So it's clearly cheaper, and we believe we will be able to bring this price much further down. Looking at the trends of typical solar energy, we saw it started very high and went down. This is a new product. We think the same will happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the judges?
I can go first. So I was just having this conversation with a colleague because with solar approaching $1 a watt, which I think has been a bar that people have been trying to get to for a while, we noticed that install costs are actually a much larger chunk of the total cost for a residential solar system than the panels themselves. So is this technology cheaper to install? And also, what are you have the capital costs here, but I have to assume there are operational costs associated with this as well that don't exist for the other solar panels.
Yeah, so you're completely right with that. The way that we've done our cost analysis right now is module based. We just simply wouldn't know the installation cost of this until we were to actually produce it. The way it's looking, it looks like it's along the same lines as utility scale solar power, the way the design is. But until we were to actually fabricate it and install it, we simply wouldn't know the installation cost. When it comes down to electricity, if you are utilizing the module for fuel production, that installation of wiring and relays and all that, that will bring down the cost there.
Um, I'm curious when you talked about this is a known area, and if it was easy, it would have been done a long time ago. So why do you think that you guys can make this happen when there's probably a number of companies out there, right? Some maybe taking it from saving the world, and some maybe taking it from I can make a lot of money. What is the biggest hurdle that you see to overcome in order to bring this to scale?
Sure. So one of the biggest hurdles of this system is just simply how it works scientifically. A big hurdle is using our specific species of algae. Uh, it's been seen it produces hydrogen in a sulfur deprived environment. However, what happens when you produce hydrogen from water? You get oxygen gas as well. And the way the algae cell works is that there's a catalyst in it called iron-iron hydrogenase, which is oxygen inhibited. So when oxygen is produced and it's at high quantities, dissolved oxygen, that catalyst essentially breaks down and doesn't work anymore. Now, what we've done to innovate that is coupling our system with two different possible systems, that being either a hydrogen fuel cell, which would not be optimal because they are expensive. However, we have also looked into coupling it with wastewater treatment. So microbes, they can process wastewater two different ways, anaerobically or aerobically. Aerobically, they use oxygen, right? So what if we are able to take wastewater and microbes and have them pretty much pull the oxygen out of our algae solution through a membrane? That way we don't cross-contaminate cultures. So that's some of the research that we're doing right now with regards to membranes.
I'll just ask one quick follow-up. People are scared of hydrogen, right? I mean, I think we can all agree that hydrogen cars aren't doing as well as people might have thought they would, and it's explosive and blah 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 blah. So how are you going to overcome that?
So, first of all, in order for the system to work, all oxygen has to be pulled out of it. So it's going to be just hydrogen gas, which by itself isn't combustible. However, if it were to spring a leak, then it would be combustible with ignition. So I think one of the biggest problems we're going to be facing is, of course, fitting, because certain rubbers and fittings will not prevent oxygen from hydrogen gas from leaking. Along with that, do you have anything to add, Isaac?
So another very real consideration is just having it sort of like a pipeline directly from the system. The hydrogen would be sent directly to a generator where then it would be continuously used, maintaining low levels of hydrogen. So sort of avoiding the storage of it and just leaving that to the system in order to minimize that risk.
And what efficiency did you assume for the generator?
We assumed a 10% efficiency.
All right.
Thank you guys.